Post 1. The next story is from Additional Trick 226. You want to review every client interaction? Perfect. Your inbox is about to blow up. I've been working at this small marketing agency for just over a year now. It's my first real job after college, and I was thrilled to have actual clients and responsibilities. Well, I was thrilled until we got a new account manager. Let's call her Debbie. Not a real name, obviously. Debbie came from one of those corporate mega agencies where, apparently, they micromanaged the living daylights out of everyone. From day one, she had concerns about my communication style with clients. Mind you, these same clients had praised me for being responsive and helpful. Last month, after I sent what I thought was a perfectly normal email to our biggest client about a small scheduling change, Debbie called an emergency meeting. From now on, I need to approve all client communications before they go out, she announced, with that fake smile managers use when they're being unreasonable, but pretending they're helping. Everything. Emails, phone call notes, text messages, meeting agendas. Send them to me first for review. When I pointed out that this would slow down our response times, she just waved her hand dismissively. It's about quality control. Better to be right than fast. Fine. You want all communications? You got it. I started that very afternoon. Every single thing. If a client asked what time a call was scheduled, I drafted an email response and sent it to Debbie, awaiting your approval on this time confirmation. If a client texted asking for a quick file, I'd screenshot it and email Debbie. Please approve my response to this text message. I even created a special folder in my drafts called Awaiting Debbie's Approval and set up an automated counter. By the end of day 1, I had sent her 17 approval requests. By the end of week 1, it was over 100. The best part, I stopped answering my phone when clients called. Instead, I let it go to voicemail then emailed Debbie. Client X called about Y. My proposed response is attached. Please approve. After about 2 weeks, Debbie was drowning. She'd fallen behind in approving my communications, which meant clients weren't getting responses. They started escalating to her directly, doubling her workload. The breaking point came when our biggest client emailed both of us, complaining about delays. I responded to the client with, I forward your concerns to Debbie for approval of my response. Once approved, I'll get back to you promptly. The next morning, Debbie stopped by my desk looking exhausted. I think we need to adjust our approval process, she said, trying to maintain her corporate dignity. Moving forward, just use your judgment for routine communications. Only send me things that involve project scope, timeline changes, or budget discussions. Are you sure? I asked innocently. I have about 30 draft responses waiting for your review right now. She visibly cringed. That won't be necessary anymore. I've been happily sending emails without approval for 2 weeks now. Debbie barely makes eye contact in the hallway. And honestly, that's fine by me. The best part? My quarterly review is coming up, and all those approval emails are documented proof that I've been trying my absolute best to follow company protocol. Sometimes, malicious compliance is the best teacher. In one of the previous videos, someone did a similar solution when dealing with a micromanaging dork. Remember, you owe these jerks nothing. They're in managerial positions to make your life miserable and get paid for it. Killing them with compliance is the least of their worries, but pissing them off with it is damn rewarding. The next post is from Wake Me Up 3000. Trying to performance manage me out of a job? I'm up for the challenge. Years ago, I worked for a supervisor who just didn't like me. No reason why, since I just came to work, did my job, and went home at the end of the day. But he decided I was terrible at what I did and made it his mission to performance manage me out of my job. Game on. He wrote me up for some vague bullcrap and asked me to sign it, but since it didn't show any hard facts or data, I asked for examples. The meeting ended with the document unsigned because he didn't have any. Tried it again later, with an example this time, and I asked how often this would be reviewed for feedback, how the feedback would be given, and how the improvement or lack of improvement would be measured. He didn't have a solid answer. Again, no document was signed and the meeting ended. The next time, he had HR in the meeting and had all his documentation and the answers to my previous questions. He decided to be slick and said feedback would be given via email. I signed the paper and he gave a smug smile. Next day came along and shockingly, there was zero feedback given. No email sent for the rest of the week. I got called into a meeting with the boss and HR with a paper saying there was no improvement and I was being put on warning for termination. Oops, I'm sorry, but can you show me the emails where feedback was given daily as outlined? There were none. Meeting ended. The next day, an email was sent with feedback. I responded with facts and data. No response. Day after, there was another email with feedback. Again, I responded, this time noting that I hadn't gotten any follow-up from the day before, and responded to that day's email with facts and data too. Third day, I again pointed out that I hadn't gotten any answers to the prior 2 days, and added facts and data for this one. Then, I CC'd the HR person and sent it back. Apparently, after much discussion, the boss decided that it was just too hard to performance manage someone out of a job. And just like that, my work was suddenly fine after all. Post 3. Our next post is from Frantic Pedantic. Boss accused me of bullying, so I requested punishment. Years ago, I worked in a semi-public sector job as part of a successful team helping make life easy for local businesses. Our team boss took a good job in the private sector, and a new boss recruited from a decent organization similar to ours in a different part of the country. She worked compressed hours Monday through Thursday and was off on Fridays. A month or two in, and the new boss was quite particular about how things were supposed to be done her way, and she upset a couple of my colleagues by criticizing their work. I had no problems with her. We had a team meeting where the boss said that our performance wasn't good enough. We were arguably the best in the country. And that she wanted to be more involved in what and how we did everything to ensure better quality. She said we should copy her on every client email so she could comment as needed before we sent another reply. Although this seemed inefficient, nobody argued. I just asked her if I should wait until Monday for her to comment on any client emails we received on Friday. I can't remember exactly what she said, but at the end of the meeting, she asked me to stay behind and told me in a heated tone that my question was bullying behavior, that it was unprofessional to ask the question in front of the team, that my actions were the sort of thing that HR would see as grounds for dismissal, and that I should be very careful in the future. I told her we understood, and we returned to our desks, where I wrote up every single detail of the entire meeting and interaction and sent it to the head of HR with the explanation that as bullying was very serious and may not be reported by the victim, I felt duty-bound to report myself. I also laid it on pretty thick about being appalled by my unprofessional behavior and the fact that my career was likely at risk and I clearly had a desperate need for training and discipline to fix my dangerous ways. I also copied in my union rep. Within a day, me, my union rep, and my boss were with the head of HR, who, being a by-the-book professional, could find no indication of bullying or justification for my fears of being an unprofessional bully in need of re-education. I was asked to leave the meeting. My union rep stayed in, and I didn't know what was said. But within 6 weeks, my boss was gone. And that same week, my weak and ineffective but likable big boss called me in to thank me as he wanted to get rid of her, but hadn't known how. Hold on a second, your boss calls you a bully for asking something so normal? And your response is to report yourself to HR as a threat to the company? That's really something. And, funnily enough, still very professional. You played the game so well they fired her instead. Gotta admit, I wish I had your moxie. You really gotta love the passive-aggressive self-report. I don't think anyone's topping that in this list. 10 out of 10. Post 4. The next post is from, wow, that's so cool, 2023. You want me to be on time? Okay, down to the minute. The timekeeping system at my job runs on a 15-minute increment schedule. Basically, if you clock in during the first 7 minutes of the increment, it rounds you backward to the start of that segment. If you're in the last 7 minutes, it rounds you forward to the end of the segment. Example, you clock out at 4:52, congrats, the system says you left at 4:45. Now, if you clock in and out multiple times a day, like for lunch, that's 4 punches, and potentially up to 28 minutes lost or gained, depending on where you land in those increments. Shortly after I started, I began getting flooded with emails about being short on a few minutes of my timesheet. Now, I was told I had to submit PTO, even though I worked full 8-hour days, sometimes more. It didn't matter that I was physically at work. If the system said I was short, I had to burn time off. So I started paying attention. Really close attention. Now here's the twist. My employer doesn't pay overtime in cash, but they do give you 1.5 times off if you earn it. So 1 hour of overtime equals 1.5 hours of paid time off, with some strategic clocking in and out, always landing on the helpful side of the 15-minute window. I've gotten good at squeezing out those 28 extra minutes a day. That adds up to 140 minutes. 2 hours and 20 minutes of overtime a week, which, when converted at 1.5 times, becomes 3.5 hours of paid time off every week, all for doing exactly what they ask, watching the clock very closely. Thanks for the free time off. There was a similar story in the last episode. Just how common are these time-docking douchebags anyway? But hey, just like the last guy, you work with it. Cool, you turn time theft into a time heist. Min-maxing the clock like it's a video game, banking 3.5 hours of paid time off every week. And all completely legal, too. Post 6. Next up, a story from Dick Fartbutt. Take the chairs away from our work area, we're gonna mess this place up. I work for a major US airline, and I've been doing it for a long time at several different airports. There's an area behind the garage counter where the bags get sorted for their respective flights after they've checked. We're on our feet most of the time, but each of us has a chair at our workstations, so we can sit and rest for a minute when there's a lull in the bags coming down. And every few years, there'll be a hotshot new manager who's gonna turn this airport around and make it the best performing one in the system, and they all seem to have the same idea. Take away the chair so the agents are always standing at the belt. Now, the agents in this area are generally on a senior side. It's indoors and out of the elements. We've done the job for a while, we know how to do it efficiently, and we really do our best to avoid screw-ups. But as long as human error is a factor, there will always be some. Taking our chairs does nothing but tick us off. Their excuse is usually framed as a safety issue, a tripping hazard. So that's where we start. Smaller or oddly shaped bags get set down in a plastic tub so they don't jam the belt. You may have seen them before. We usually take them off the belt and stack them on the ground for someone to come by and collect. Not anymore. We let them pile up on the belt, making it a giant pain in the butt for the poor guy collecting them. They were constantly whining to the manager. We just say, "Sorry boss, they're a tripping hazard on the ground." Next, we start following the rules. Our employee handbook clearly lays out the company's expectations for our duties. We're only expected to pull one bag per minute and take bags out no later than 20 minutes before the flight departs. Maybe you've guessed it already, but those expectations are nowhere near good enough to actually get the job done. So by the company's own rules, we were already going beyond what was expected. We started giving them the bare minimum, one bag per minute. 20 minutes prior, the manager was angry. He and the supervisors were throwing bags, and since we're unionized, we documented and grieved every single time it happened. A few days later, the company had to pay out several $1,000s to agents for covered work. Delays across the board, there were 1,500 bags missing that day. The next morning, the chairs were back in their spots, and we continued as normal. After that, no one gave that manager the time of day. A lot of passengers got screwed over that day, but we were working exactly by the rules our company gave us. So you can blame the airline, not the agents. The handbook was changed eventually, but only extended it to 35 minutes prior instead of 20. Still, one bag per minute last I checked. I was lucky enough to be part of 3 of these events over the years, but this one was the most satisfying. Ah, that was just textbook. You take chairs from veteran baggage handlers who already go above and beyond expectations and expect no consequences? Come on, no. These workers didn't strike, didn't protest. They just followed rules and the whole system crumbled. Bags lost, flights delayed, thousands paid out. Why? Because a new manager wanted to optimize. Turns out respecting your team is the optimization. Chairs came back, order was restored. Corporate America, never underestimating its ability to shoot itself in the foot. Post 7. The next post is from Flossing Horse 741. I should cancel on my end? No problem. I booked accommodation 2 months in advance for St. Patrick's weekend in Dublin. It was a fairly ancient B&B, but for €115, it was a place to sleep and the cheapest option for the busiest weekend of the year in Dublin. It was one double bed for me and a buddy to share. It was pay on arrival. 3 weeks before the stay, the accommodation manager messaged me on the app I booked through, telling me there's a problem. I can no longer stay and to cancel on my side immediately. No apology, let alone help, was offered by them. This was followed by multiple daily phone calls, along with text messages in a harassing manner, saying I needed to cancel now so I could get my money back. Once again, it was pay on arrival. I didn't answer the calls or messages telling me to cancel. Something felt off, so I checked the listing for the night I was supposed to stay, and it just so happened the accommodation had been listed again for double the price. Likely the manager realized St. Patrick's weekend was a cash grab. Maybe not immediately, but at the property manager's request, I simply rang Booking.com and told them I'd like to cancel my booking. The customer service rep asked why I was canceling. I explained in detail everything I just mentioned, and things took an unexpected turn for the property manager. Ultimately, the rep agreed the property was acting unfairly, and the solution was that Booking.com would find me an accommodation within 1 kilometer of where I originally intended to stay. At first, they tried to get me to stay way outside the city, but I wasn't having it. The original property would then be liable to cover any difference in cost. Here's the good part. Finding accommodation 3 weeks before St. Patrick's Day in Dublin is about as difficult as trying to light a fire with flint and steel in the rain. Nearly impossible. Everything within a 1 kilometer range was booked out, except for a well-known 4-star hotel. The room alone cost €350 per night. It had 2 double beds, was much bigger, and in a nicer location. The customer rep had to get it cleared by our team lead, so I just sat on hold doing chores for 25 minutes. Eventually, they came back and said it was all signed off on, and they'd send me a special link. What a treat! I gladly accepted their compromise. This in turn meant the property owner that tried to force me to cancel on my end was now indebted €235, and we got a massive upgrade for the same price we originally had. I had to pay the €350 up front and had to keep receipts and show proof of payment to the booking partner after our stay. But I got my refund of €235 for the following week. TLDR, property demanded a cancel booking on my end. They ended up having to pay an extra €235, and I got a free upgrade. So let me get this straight. They tried to scam a guest out of a €115 B&B booking, relist it for double, and end up footing the bill for a €350 4-star hotel? Oh man, you got lucky. That's not just karma, that's deluxe king-size complimentary breakfast karma. Pro tip, if you're gonna play games during St. Patrick's weekend in Dublin, maybe don't do it with someone who knows how to use customer service like a gun.